It's exciting to talk to you all again. This kind of week, we're talking about evidence-based practice and how evidence-based practice comes into that identity of being a professional educator. And I think one thing that's so great about being a professional counselor is how much we focus on that relationship. I think one thing that we need to do a better job is recognizing, and I'm about to say something controversial here, folks, sometimes just the relationship isn't enough. And I know in professional counseling, that's yeah, I just said something pretty controversial there, didn't I? So I kind of want to ask you, Dr. Lucas, because you, from your clinical practice, you have to use evidence-based practice given that you're working with the population you're working with. Do you think we can bring together evidence-based practice with professional counseling given the humanistic roots of professional counseling?
Yeah, I absolutely do, and I think it's a both-and proposition, and so I'll tell a little story. When I first started my clinical work and working with mandated clients, I saw a lot of very much focus on the evidence and the theory, and a lot of it was confrontational with these mandated clients, and the relationship was missing. And I saw that right away, and it didn't sit with me, and so my thought was, well, how do I incorporate the relationship into this? And very much a, CBT sort of approach, and it often gets lost. And so how can we be with our clients and have a connection while still advocating and being knowledgeable about that evidence base and what the research actually says? And so there can be a marriage of those two things, and it's a fine balance, I think, and takes a lot of practice and education and trial and error, but knowing how you want to be and knowing how you want to intervene, those two things can really come together.
It's interesting because I think it's interesting. You're like, okay, I got trained really well on evidence-based practice, and then I really was like, I need to bring the relationship into it. I think for many professional counselors, and especially our students, they get trained so well and build in that relationship, they're almost like reverse. They're like, okay, now how do I bring the evidence-based practice into the relationship?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just listening to Kyle, because I have similar population, court-ordered people, Department of Corrections, so on and so forth. And I guess over the years what I have found is that there's been so much in the area, for example, on trauma. So years ago, we probably didn't have that much focus, that much understanding of specifically trauma. There have been some other, at least in the addictions field, there has been so much research in that area. So what I find is that actually informs us on ways that we go, but also agreeing with you entirely that I have found that the relationship is also a critical piece. So it's just balancing those parts. And again, we can go back in history and find out that something as terrible as conversion therapy probably has, at some point, had some research behind it. We have other things, and that's just how it evolves for the most part. Brain science is fascinating when we talk about CBT versus more of the emotional piece. It's just important just to be aware of there are scientific breakthroughs, and in fact, and that's why I like the idea of what we call neurocounseling, is that there is really this movement of integrating the neurology into the other practice as well. So I just encourage everybody to be a consumer of everything. Cookbooks, plumbing books, whatever you need, it all is relevant.
Bring it into counseling.
Bring it all in.
I think just one thing I see new counselors struggle with, though, is because other professions might give more protocols right out of the gate, right? Yeah. Like we don't. A lot of times we focus on those core kind of like listening skills. But then students are craving, like, what do I do? And then they find, and I'm not going to name them because, like, students are watching this and I don't want hate on YouTube or anything, right? But folks find the new hip thing, and it's not, the evidence just isn't there for it yet. And I actually think it's our fault as counselor educators because they are craving, what do I do? And we're the ones that are like, it's about the relationship, it's about the relationship. And I welcome you all to disagree with me. I think it's about the relationship and, I don't know, what do you all think?
Well, you just said that, and I don't want to name names either, but I think there are some models that also have almost a cultish feel to it. It's the flavor of the month. And I can tell you when I came up, we were told one theory and one theory only. It'll take you a lifetime to master it. Things change, and but I agree with you entirely. I think that some of it may have some sort of a cultish feel to it. Yeah.
And there might be some students watching right now that are in one of those things, and I've been a part of some of them too, right? Like some of them can be really good training, but I think as soon as we like lock ourselves into like joining something that you have to like.
All right.
I'm going to just stop right there. I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Wilmer?
Yeah, I feel like definitely that there's a piece of like we're craving, especially as novices, we're craving like, what do I do? How do I do it? And that there's a lot of certainty in some maybe theories or approaches that feels really maybe empowering, but especially just it feels really nice to have like, this is exactly what I can do. But I think for me, the thing that I really enjoy is that counseling is a profession where you are continually getting further and further education, and like that's built into your license because the field is changing constantly. And so I think that I think there is this tension between the relationship and maybe evidence at like more manualized kind of approaches. I also don't want to create too false a dichotomy either. Like I think that there's room for all of that. And so when we're talking about the flavor of the month and being able to talk about that in relationship with other counselors and with other counselor educators. And I think that things that maybe bring us toward more wholeness or bring us toward greater understanding of our whole selves is maybe the direction to go with these new flavors, without maybe getting so like overly identified with any one thing, but really being able to critically evaluate even your own kind of theoretical orientation. What are the kind of pros and cons to that, but really being able to critically evaluate others, but also like the approaches that you tend toward as well.
I think what's hard for me is, so Dr. Yellum, one of my favorites. I mean, I watch clips, I read what he writes, and I'm like, this is just so good. And he's kind of one that will say, be wary of like the evidence-based kind of like, I don't think he's against evidence-based practice per se, but I think he's like afraid that like we get too locked in as well in those stuff. So I just appreciate the complexity of this conversation. I don't know, I'm hoping what students take away though is that we do got to find a way to make sure that our students are helping their clients make progress. And as the teachers, we're the ones that we have to teach them to do that. So thanks for the dialogue, y'all, and we'll keep it going in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you.